Taxi Driver is a 1976 American neo-noir psychological thriller film directed by Martin Scorsese. By 1976, Martin Scorsese had made four well-received features, and together with filmmakers such as Francis Ford Coppola, Brian De Palma, George Lucas, and Steven Spielberg, was at the vanguard of the so-called Hollywood Renaissance. Scorsese's fifth feature, Taxi Driver, written by Paul Schrader, eloquently expressed these new ideas. Set in a decaying and morally bankrupt New York City following the Vietnam War, the film follows Travis Bickle, played by Robert De Niro, give career-defining performance, a veteran and taxi driver, and his deteriorating mental state as he works nights in the city. The film received numerous accolades, including the Palme d'Or at the 1976 Cannes Film Festival. In 2022, Sight and Sound named it the 29th best film ever in its decennial critics poll and the 12th greatest film of all time on its directors poll, tied with Barry Lyndon. In New York City, Travis Bickle takes a job as a night shift taxi driver to cope with his chronic insomnia and loneliness. Everywhere he sees night people, pimps, whores, pushers, living in and out of garish blotches of gauzy neon, glass reflections, wet pavements, everything is ugliness. He frequently goes to the porn theaters on 42nd Street and keeps a diary in which he wrote, like you are only as healthy as you feel. Travis' narration allows us to see inside his deteriorating mind. He becomes disgusted with the crime and urban decay that he witnesses in the city and dreams about ridding the scum of the streets. Travis views every part of society with the same judgment. He constantly wishes someone would wash the scum away. Which begs the question, could Travis be the one to wash the scum away? The movie rarely stays very far from the personal, highly subjective way in which he sees the city and lets it wound him. In narration, once he said, "Loneliness has followed me my whole life, everywhere, in bars, in cars, sidewalks, stores, everywhere. There is no escape. I am God's lonely man." In writing the script, Schrader drew inspiration from the diaries of Arthur Bremer, who shot presidential candidate George Wallace in 1972, as well as from the Harry Chapin song Taxi, which is about an old girlfriend getting into a cab. Travis becomes infatuated with Betsy, played by Sybil Shepherd, a campaign volunteer for senator and presidential candidate Charles Palin. Travis enters the campaign office where she works and asks her out for coffee, to which she agrees. Betsy confesses that she feels a special connection to Travis and agrees to go on another date with him. During their date, Travis takes Betsy to a porn theater. That's how he is unconnected to the outside world, which repulses her and causes her to leave. He attempts to reconcile with her, but to no avail. Enraged, he storms into the campaign office where she works and berates her before he is ordered to leave. Taxi Driver was shot during a New York City summer heat wave and sanitation strike in 1975. Filming took place on New York City's west side at a time when the city was on the brink of bankruptcy. Painted in evocative shades of grey by cinematographer Michael Chapman, presented a morally ambiguous story. Experiencing an existential crisis and seeing various acts of prostitution throughout the city, Travis confides in a fellow taxi driver nicknamed Wizard about his violent thoughts. Wizard can't understand his problem, so he dismisses them and assures him that he will be fine. The violent pressure inside his skull is made worse by listening to the psychotic fantasies of a creepy passenger, a cameo from Scorsese himself. In an attempt to find an outlet for his rage, Travis begins a program of intense physical training. A fellow taxi driver recommends him to a black market gun dealer, Easy Andy, from whom Travis buys 4 handguns. At home, Travis practices drawing his weapons and modifies one to allow him to hide and quickly deploy it from his sleeve. Travis vows to change his life, to stop smoking, and to start working out. Travis breaks free of his self restraints and vows to become his own hero by ridding the world of filth. It's perverse but heroic, and in the end, he is honored for it, even if only in his own mind. This is the film's midpoint. It comes to a head when Travis plays with his television set, rocking the crate holding it up. But when he pushes it too far, the TV comes falling down, crashes and bursts. The type of dramatic improvisation that leads to a moment like Travis Bickle's mirror monologue is a collaborative effort between a director and their actor. As a largely improvised such an iconic scene, Scorsese trusted De Niro's instincts to embody Travis Bickle. According to producer Michael Phillips, the whole West Side was bombed out. There really were row after row of condemned buildings, and that's what we used to build our sets. We didn't know we were documenting what looked like the dying gasp of New York. The film has been labeled as neo-noir by some critics, while others have referred to it as an anti-hero film. He begins attending Palantine's rallies to scope out his security. One night, Travis shoots and kills a man attempting to rob a local convenience store. And then soon after he kills a robber without any grandstanding, no tension, no voiceover explanation from the scene of the crime, just one guy opening fire on another, quick and messy, and a signal that Travis is hurtling uncontrollably into chaos, rupturing his orderly self-contained existence. On his trips around the city, Travis regularly encounters Iris, a 12-year-old child prostitute. Iris' character played by Jodie Foster, then she was also 12-year-old. He solicits her and tries to persuade her to stop prostituting herself. Screenwriter Schrader used himself as inspiration. In a 1981 interview with Tom Snyder on The Tomorrow Show, he related his experience of living in New York City while battling chronic insomnia, which led him to frequent pornographic bookstores and theaters because they remained open all night. Following a divorce and a breakup with a live-in girlfriend, he spent a few weeks living in his car. After visiting a hospital for a stomach ulcer, Schrader wrote the screenplay for Taxi Driver in under a fortnight. He states, the first draft was maybe 60 pages, and I started the next draft immediately, and it took less than 2 weeks. Schrader recalls, I realized I hadn't spoken to anyone in weeks. That was when the metaphor of the taxi occurred to me. That is what I was, this person in an iron box, a coffin, floating around the city, but seemingly alone. Schrader decides to make Bickle a Vietnam vet because the national trauma of the war seemed to blend perfectly with Bickle's paranoid psychosis, making his experiences after the war more intense and threatening. Schrader set the tone of the story of the world it inhabits. Soon after, Travis cuts his hair into a mohawk and attends a public rally where he plans to assassinate Palantine. However, he is chased away by Secret Service agents. That evening, Travis drives to the brothel where Iris works to shoot her pimp, Sport played by Harvey Keitel. Sport is always in motion, not still for a moment. Very lively and contradictory to Travis, who is calm physically but not mentally. He enters the building and engages in a shootout with Sport and one of Iris' clients. Travis is shot several times but manages to kill the two men. He then brawls with the bouncer, whom he manages to stab through the hand with his knife located in his shoe and finish off with a gunshot to the head. Travis attempts to commit suicide but is out of the bullets. Severely injured, he slumps on a couch next to a sobbing Iris. As police responds to the scene, Travis imitates shooting himself in the head using his finger. The violence in this movie is so threatening precisely because it's cathartic for Travis. The tracking shot over the shootout scene, filmed in an actual apartment, took 3 months of preparation. The production team had to cut through the ceiling to shoot it. The film ran into conflict with the Motion Picture Association of America due to its violence. Scorsese desaturated the colors in the final shootout, which allowed the film to get an R rating. In Scorsese on Scorsese, he mentions the religious symbolism in the story, comparing Bickle to a saint who wants to cleanse or purge both his mind and his body of weakness. Bickle attempts to kill himself near the end of the movie as a tribute to the samurai's death with honor principle. Travis goes into a coma due to his injuries. He is heralded by the press as a heroic vigilante and is not prosecuted for the murders, also receiving a letter from Iris' parents thanking him. For the ending of the story, in which Bickle becomes a media hero, screenwriter Schrader was inspired by Squeaky Fromm's attempted assassination of President Gerald Ford, which resulted in her being on the cover of Newsweek. After recovering, Travis grows his hair out and returns to work, where he encounters Betsy as a pair. They interact cordially, with Betsy saying she followed his story in the newspapers. Travis drops her at home and declines to take her money. driving off with a smile. The taxi driver ending almost seems impossible. How did Travis break so far away from reality yet return a hero? Well, maybe he didn't return. Maybe he died in the shootout, and this hero fantasy was his final dream. The taxi driver ending is what Travis wants it to be. He earns the respect of his colleagues, Iris' parents, and perhaps most importantly, Betsy. If you enjoyed this video, then please like and share this video and do subscribe to the channel and don't forget to click the bell icon.